Last time on Games I Never Play. Tune in next time on Games I Never Play, where hopefully we'll be playing a game that's beatable, because I haven't been able to complete any of the games I've done so far. Why? Ah, Mario. Everyone's favorite video game plumber. Oh, you're a Luigi fan? Then screw you. Just kidding, I like Luigi more than Mario too. But that's not the point of this video. Mario started off clearing the sewers of all kinds of enemies back in the day. A few years later, he became Super, running and jumping around, killing enemies, and saving the princess. This game was the reason video games are as popular as they are now. It sold the Nintendo Entertainment System back in the 80s. Nintendo, knowing they had the most successful character of the generation at their disposal, started to bring Mario into every scenario possible. With the transition into the age of 3D, Mario and friends had their own golfing video game, a kart racing video game, and a tennis video game. As the years passed, Mario even got his own baseball game, his own soccer game, and his own basketball game. They even make regular trips to the Olympics to compete in all of the events, even though the actual athletes are nowhere to be found. But somewhere in between, Mario and Peach took a wrong turn and ended up at some sort of carnival. Peach gets kidnapped as usual, and Mario does what?
Let's go! Mario Pinball Land!
It's pinball. And the ball is Mario. Why does this game exist? Imagine any of the 3D Mario games. Your purpose is to collect enough stars so that you can ultimately have a final fight with Bowser. Oh, that's too easy for you? Okay, try doing all that, but on a pinball table.
I could end my review now, and I think you'd completely understand my hatred for this game. But no. I am going to beat this game. I've never beat this game before, but I am going to do it. Right here, right now. And for what reason? I don't know. I don't know.
At first glance, this doesn't look like a bad game. You start out in the carnival area, where your first task is to shoot yourself into the cannon. I thought Mario already got shot out of the cannon in the intro. Oh well, I shouldn't be nitpicking yet. From the cannon, you can select one of 4 worlds to start off in. The grassland, the ice world, the desert, and the castle. The castle's locked for now, so let's start off with the grassland. The goal of each world is to collect stars, just like in any other Mario game. Each screen in the game besides the carnival level has a star to obtain, just like how every level in games like Mario 64 has one. To get this star to appear, you simply have to defeat all the enemies on the screen, like these Goombas, and the star is yours to collect. Sounds easy, right? Well, trust me, it gets a lot harder. In most other Mario games, you can just stomp on enemies to defeat them, and it's usually not too difficult to control. But that's where this game starts to have its issues, control. And to top it all off, the pinball controls. There's nothing wrong with them, but unless you're an absolute pinball god, you'll find yourself losing your ball, oftentimes faster than you can say Mamma Mia. When you lose the ball down the drain, you lose a life, and earn some bonus points based on your performance with that ball. Lose all 3 of your lives and it's game over. You can earn some extra balls, but they're not too easy to come by. Now I'll admit, I've never been very good at pinball games, but there's something about this game in particular that makes it unlike any other. Let's take a look at a classic pinball game that was released with Windows XP, 3D Pinball Space Cadet. Notice how much stuff there is to do on the table, but also notice how spaced out everything is. There are loops and ramps that take you to different areas of the table with different features. Now let's go back to Mario Pinball Land. It's completely different. Each screen is nothing compared to the size of most pinball tables, and enemies always clutter the small amount of space you have to work with. That's not to say that Mario levels have never been cluttered with enemies before, but there's a difference between good clutter and annoying clutter. But wait, why am I comparing this game to other Mario games if it's a pinball game? That's because the gameplay is modeled after Super Mario 64 more than anything. Like Mario 64, there are locked doors that require a certain number of stars to open. Hitting a door once opens it, and then hitting the ball where the open door was will take you to the next screen of the area. Simple enough. To reach the final boss of the game, you'll need to collect 15 of the 35 total stars in the game. But you don't know that now. You're supposed to just roam around the levels collecting as many stars as possible and discovering new areas as you go. This is more of an open world game than anything. There's also a boss waiting in each world, and they're usually hidden in more difficult to reach areas of the world. For the boss here in the grassland, you just have to shoot your ball into the windmill. That can be easier said than done because of how much clutter there is on the screen. If you accidentally hit the beehive that's placed unnecessarily close to the windmill, then 3 bees will pop out, causing even more clutter and chaos. Look, he just stung my ball right down the drain! Luckily, you don't lose a life if you fall down the drain, as long as you aren't on the first screen of an area. But making your way back up to where you were is still a major time waster. You'll find as you play this game more that you spend more time fighting to get through a door than actually making progress on collecting stars. Okay, finally back up to the screen with the windmill again, and all of a sudden Toad is here. Anytime you hit Toad with your ball, you get to go visit the shop, where you can buy items with coins you've earned. How do you get coins? Just defeat any enemy and a coin will appear. If you hit multiple enemies in one shot, you can earn blue coins, which are rarer and used instead in some shops. I don't really want anything in the shop right now, so we'll just leave for now. Get used to that. You'll be exiting Toad's shop so many times that you'll be wanting to throw your Game Boy at the wall. Because every single time you enter the screen with enough coins, Toad will appear. Every time. And trust me, you'll be hitting him by accident almost every time you see him. A lot of times it's just best to hit Toad anyway so he disappears. Then there's one less obstacle to get in your way while you're trying to hit the ball where you want. Anyway, we were trying to get in that windmill. When you finally get in, you'll immediately encounter the first boss of the game, the very intimidating Petey Piranha. It's a standard Mario boss taking 3 hits to defeat, and Petey won't even fight back until you hit him once. Hit him once. Once. I can't even hit him! Okay, back down the drain and we gotta get into the windmill again without running into... I hit Toad again! Toad is the most annoying motherfucker on the block. I'm always tempted to buy items from him just so I won't have enough coins for him to appear again. Okay, finally back to Petey again. After you do get the first hit on him, he'll start attacking the ball. Petey will try to lunge at the ball with his mouth. If the ball is close enough, he'll eat it and spit it right back out at you, which can often cause the ball to go, you guessed it, right back down the drain. Since you can't attack him directly from the front unless you go in between his lunges, the best strategy in this fight is to loop around the edge of the room to make him turn his head, and then hit him while his head is turned. But he's still a surprisingly small target for being this big. Despite that, he's still the easiest boss in the game. Hit him 2 times after he begins to attack back, and congratulations, you've defeated Petey Piranha. A star key will appear after you defeat him, and you'll have to make sure you collect it before you lose your ball. If you somehow manage to lose your ball before you pick up the key, which I've done before, you'll have to beat the boss all over again. You don't want that. So that's all there really is to do in the grassland, apart from picking up more stars to reach the 15 required, so let's go back in the cannon that appeared on the first screen of the area once we beat Petey and travel to the other areas. Let's try the ice world next. Now I'm really a fan of ice levels recently after some of the amazing ones in both Super Mario Galaxy games. While ice physics have always been a bit of a nuisance, you might be relieved to know that the ice here does not affect your ball adversely in any way. It just happens to be everything but bad ice physics coming together in the ice world. The first screen has a moving Shy Guy and Toad, but nothing too difficult to navigate. But the second screen. Oh, the second screen. Penguins. The worst enemies in any Mario game, right here. Actually, I take that back. They may not even be the worst enemies in this game, but oh, are they terrible. If you hit a penguin with your ball, it will start to slide around the screen with no real pattern. After a few seconds of sliding, they'll stand right back up and waddle around again. So to take out a penguin, you have to hit one, get your ball back to the flippers quickly, and then launch a quick, accurate shot right to exactly where the penguin was. This is hardly even fair. Taking out all 4 penguins earns you a star, but for the most part you'll be trying to do other things on this screen and the penguins will just be getting in your way. Notice how there's a big iceberg in the center of this screen? You need to hit it straight on to push it out of the way, but you can't do anything because the damn penguins are always in the way. I guess you could try to take out the penguins first, but they respawn if you can somehow manage to defeat all 4, so you'll just have the same problem again. And getting to the doors in the back of the screen is even harder since it's a tough angle and nearly impossible to hit without getting rid of some of the penguins first. So what's beyond the 3-star door anyway? More annoying enemies! We have Mr. Blizzard, who hasn't been a noteworthy character ever. 4 of them will chuck snowballs at you until the end of eternity. Hitting them will stun them, but it's hard to hit one because another will just throw a snowball at you to send you off in a direction you don't want to go in. And if you can't take out all 4 for the star, you have to fall back down a screen. Yeah, good luck getting back up there again because of penguins. How about the 5-star door? This is actually one of the cooler rooms at the game. You can never defeat all the Shy Guys, as another will always spawn as soon as you defeat one. But the goal is to make all 4 Shy Guys in the room turn the same color. The only way to figure this out is by trial and error, which means you'll probably have to come back to this room many times if you want to get the star. Whoa, I got it on my first try? What? This game is fucking bullshit! It's a damn good thing you don't need to get every star in order to progress. It's already a frustrating game as is. Anyway, let's move on to the boss of the ice world since we've been wasting too much time here anyway. You have to push the iceberg on the screen with the penguins until it reaches the cracked ice at the very top of the screen. It literally took me 23 minutes in the ice world before I could push this iceberg right. And literally as soon as I get it, I lose my ball down to the screen below. Well, at least you don't have to push it every time once you get it once. Now we just fall in the hole where the ice cracked and we reach an underwater section. Open all the treasure chests and we can enter the sunken ship where we face off with the boss of the area, Puffer Cheap. Puffer Cheap is actually a very creative boss battle, but it's not easy. Hitting Puffer Cheap directly does nothing. Instead, you have to hit the targets in the corners of the screen to make bob-bombs appear. Then you hit Puffer Cheap with a bob-bomb to make him expand, where he becomes vulnerable for a few seconds and you can get a hit in on him. Do this 3 times while avoiding the smaller Cheap Cheeps and you've defeated the boss. Okay, with 2 worlds down, let's head off to the desert world. There's really not much to say here that hasn't been said already, so let's go find the boss. From the middle door, you'll enter a room with a small pyramid. Hitting the statues on either side will cause the pyramid to rise from the sand. When it's at its maximum size, a door will appear and all you have to do is enter the pyramid. Come on. Come on. Get in the opening! Wow, at least we got a star out of that. Another accidental star. Once in the pyramid, you'll have to deal with a few puzzles to reach the boss. Each room will have switches on the ground. Hit the right switch and a hole will appear, taking you deeper into the pyramid. Hit the wrong switch and a swarm of enemies will appear. Hit Toad and... Toad, what are you doing inside of a pyramid that used to be underground? Oh, why should I question this game's logic now? Anyway, at the bottom floor of the pyramid, you'll encounter the boss of the world, Tutankhamun. Based off the Egyptian child king, Tutankhamun. I don't know how many people who play this game would get that reference, but then again, I don't know how many people actually know the names of the bosses, given that they aren't in the manual or in the game. For Tutankhamun, he's only vulnerable when he's in midair, so you need to hit the statues on either side of him to make your ball bigger so you don't just go underneath him. He's quite easy to hit, but you'll need to be careful of the energy ball he releases that flies around the table. If you get hit by this, your ball shrinks to an even smaller size than normal, making him impossible to hit. Tutankhamun isn't that hard to defeat. I actually beat him on my first try, if you can believe that. But if you do lose, you'll have to work your way down the whole pyramid again. I guess the game couldn't handle putting you back 1 floor above, given that there are 2 different rooms above the boss room. But oh well, let's go find the last boss. The 4th and final boss is actually located in the carnival area you start off in, but you need 10 stars to reach him, therefore he's generally the last boss you defeat. You need to enter the ghost house, which is locked at the beginning of the game, and enter the 10-star door, and after a roller coaster ride, you'll be in a fight with King Boo. This is one of the most awkward boss fights I can remember from any game. Not only is King Boo like any other Boo, turning invisible when you face him, He can use his magic to put some weird spin on the ball, making it very hard to control. If this happens, it might be best to just leave the ball at the flippers until it stops spinning, although you can get some lucky hits in on him if he happens to spin the ball into himself. It's really just all about patience in this fight. If you can keep control of your ball, you can get 3 hits in without it taking too many attempts. And when you defeat King Boo, you earn the 4th and final star key, unlocking Bowser's Castle. So you take the cannon off to Bowser's Castle. You can access the area whenever you have a star key, but you might as well just wait until you have all 4, since you can't do anything without all 4 anyway. Once you insert all 4 star keys into the statues, the door to the castle opens and we can finally face off against Bowser to get Peach back. Or can we? Nope, it turns out we only have 14 stars and need 1 more. I could have stayed in the castle to get 1 from defeating all the enemies here, but I guess we'll go back to the carnival to show off some more stuff. After placing the star keys, you unlock an extra star in the rooms where you fought the bosses. These are red coin missions like in Mario 64, and some are more difficult than you can imagine. Luckily, this one in the carnival isn't too hard since there are only 3 screens in the entire world. Since all the other worlds have many more screens, they can become downright impossible, with the Ice World's red coins being scattered across 5 screens in the area. But with that, we get our 15th star and we head back to the castle, into the big door, for the final showdown with Bowser.
This game has been very frustrating so far. I've had a lot of trouble getting through some portions, but it's only taken 2 hours and 18 minutes of playtime to get to this point. Yes, this is the final boss of the game, and for it to have only taken a little over 2 hours makes this game not seem very bad thus far. Could this game really be as bad as I make it out to be?
Well, the Bowser fight looks really good. It's gimmicky like every other Bowser fight out there though. It seems the only game where Mario can truly fight Bowser one-on-one is the Super Smash Bros. Series, but that doesn't mean this can't be an epic boss fight nonetheless. The gimmick of this fight is that Bowser's stomp will render your flippers useless for about 2 seconds. To prevent him from doing this, you have to hit him with your ball while he prepares to jump. It doesn't seem too difficult, but keep in mind how much trouble I've had getting the ball to go exactly where I want thus far. Even then, Bowser is still invincible. There are wheels on the edges of the arena that can be turned to make the chains holding the thwomps be pulled upwards. You can get 2 or 3 good loops around the outer ring of the arena before Bowser has time to stomp if you can control your flipper timing well enough. This should be more than enough to fully raise both thwomps. Once 1 or both thwomps are raised, you can hit the switch in the middle of the arena to stun Bowser for a short period of time. He'll only be vulnerable for a few seconds, but hopefully you can get a hit in that time. The fight doesn't really seem that hard until you remember that the pipe that blocks the drain only lasts for approximately 30 seconds once you enter the room. This means that unless you can defeat Bowser in 30 seconds, which is pretty much impossible, you'll have to deal with not having a drain pipe at all. This is hard for 2 reasons. 1, because Bowser can stun your flippers. If you don't have the ball trapped on a flipper when this happens, you likely won't have a chance to stop the ball from going down the drain, unless it gets hung up on something. And 2, easily the most annoying thing about this boss fight. If you lose your ball down the drain against Bowser, you fall down 2 screens instead of 1. So you combine a boss fight that's already extremely difficult, with a painfully frustrating design choice that makes it take even longer before you can challenge him again. Not only that, but the first room outside the castle has almost no space to shoot towards the door, and the Flying Shy Guys love to block the way, making it even harder to get back inside the castle. And in the room before Bowser. Though to be fair, you might actually want to buy some of Toad's items for once to help you out. I haven't really covered items much, but you can hold 1 item at a time and use it by pressing B. You can buy an extra drain pipe to have an extra 30 seconds of safety. You can buy a Yoshi egg to have 2 balls going around at once, making Bowser easier to hit. There's also lightning that gets a free stun on Bowser. The star is actually the most useful item you can buy, as it lets you stun Bowser by hitting him, and hit him a second time afterwards. But good luck hitting him 6 times in the small amount of time the star lasts for. You'll still have to do 1 or 2 hits normally, and by that time you won't have a drain pipe left either. I prefer to do it the old-fashioned way, using a second drain pipe for desperate times. Can a final boss ruin a video game? If any game can have that happen to it, it would be Mario Pinball Land. I can understand a boss being difficult, but this is just uncalled for. If a 30-hour game has a final boss so difficult that it takes 2.5 hours to defeat, then I'll accept that, as long as the game's amazing. but for a game that took me barely over 2 hours to reach the final boss, needing 2.5 hours worth of retries to defeat, I've had this game for many years. I remember struggling through the entire game, its difficult controls, cluttered levels, irritating physics, flawed design logic, but I made it to Bowser. I was probably 11 or 12 years old at the time. To this day, I could not defeat Bowser. I know I'm not the only one either. There are frustration videos on YouTube of people claiming to take 13 hours to defeat this boss. This isn't Battletoads. At least in Battletoads you can memorize patterns, memorize the levels, and eventually defeat the game. The only hard part of Battletoads is dealing with the limited amount of lives. I got 2 game overs in the nearly 5.5 hours I spent playing and recording this game. 2. It's hard to lose lives because you're not even on a screen where you can lose lives most of the time. But the frustration factor in this game, this is beyond Battletoads. This is beyond anything in existence. The game doesn't purposely try to fuck with you like some others, but oh does it fuck with you. No game I have ever played has resulted in more rage for a 2-night period of recording than Mario Pinball Land for the Game Boy Advance. Wait, what? I beat Bowser? I beat Bowser! Oh my gosh, I've had this game for 6 years, and I just now beat the final boss for the first time. I can't believe it. It's finally... What? It's not over? It's not over?! Never before in my life have I experienced so much agony and frustration as I have now from playing Mario Pinball Land. The final boss of the game had just been defeated. I die afterwards, come back to see what happens, and Bowser is back as if I never defeated him. It's like a bad ending almost. I don't know if I can bear to try this fight again.
But no, I am going to beat this game.
Really? Well, I guess I can't back out of a promise I made to myself. So I kept going. Many attempts, and many more failures awaited me. I failed in ways that I've failed in many times before, as if I hadn't learned from my previous mistakes one bit. Just when it seemed I wasn't making any progress. Just when it seemed like I was going to fail yet again, I made this very alert save. I wasn't going to let myself lose this time. Apparently, once you finally defeat Bowser, he turns into a second ball that you can control. Pretty creative, huh? Well, Bowser's far too big to fit down the drain, but if you lose Mario in this time, it still counts as you failing the boss battle, even though you've already won. So I got as careful as possible, keeping Mario on one flipper and using the other to launch Bowser around the room, destroying the castle, and launching him out into the skies of the Mushroom Kingdom. So that looks like it's all for Mario Pinball Land. Only one thing left to do, and that's to see the ending screen. I can just picture it now. A brilliant screen that more than makes up for the effort and frustration you put into beating this game. A reward that makes this entire game worthwhile. Will we get it?
All right.
The end?
Bye-bye.
With a question mark? You've got to be kidding me. That's the best they could have come up with? I just can't handle this. Everything about this game is almost unbearable. I don't want to ever have to see this terrible game ever again. But wait. The end with a question mark? Could that possibly mean that there's more to do in this game? Could there be a better ending for collecting all 35 stars the game has to offer?
No, I'm not doing it. I'm not that crazy. But I am curious.
So I turned on my GameCube again the next night, and again the night after that. 4 nights spent on Mario Pinball Land. 9 hours and 43 minutes of recording. 12 more stars to earn. 4 more extra bosses to defeat. I guess I'll show them off really quick. So they're all just copies of the 4 main bosses in the game, but boy are they harder. The rematch with Puffer Cheep in particular took me over an hour, I'd say. Remember when I said that the penguins might not even be the worst enemy in the game? That award goes to the Koopa Trolls in Bowser's Castle. You can't knock them down like you can with the penguins. The only way to defeat them is to push them into the edge of the screen, or use lightning or a star. but because it's important to have items for the boss fight, wasting a lightning just to make it there isn't a smart idea. As for the actual fights, they're the same as before, except the enemies aren't vulnerable for as long, they move faster, and there are more obstacles to clutter the playing field. But you gain a star and the most valuable items in the game when you defeat them. These are double items that allow you to have 2 of the same item in your inventory at once. Double stars would have been very helpful for Bowser, but the boss required to unlock him is Puffercheap, who's probably just as frustrating. So with all 35 stars, we're about to complete the game 100%. All that remains is whatever is behind this 35-star door. And it's a Yoshi Tower. I haven't mentioned these yet, but there's one in every world. If you bring a Yoshi egg, a tower arises, and you can earn a jackpot if you can knock down the tower to collect the golden egg at the top. But why would this be behind the final door in the game? Why not an extra boss fight? Why not another rematch with Bowser? No, instead we get a very anticlimactic ending, where collecting the giant egg at the top ends our game. We're shown all 35 stars that we've collected, forming a cool star shape. Is this the ending screen I had in mind for defeating Bowser? Not exactly, but it's pretty cool nonetheless. Afterwards, we get a pretty cool minigame where we launch bob-ombs at a target off in the distance, but I failed miserably. Oh well, what can you expect after all that's happened in this game so far? Then we get the ending screen again. It's exactly the same as the other one, except there's no question mark after the end. Mario Pinball Land sucks. As much as I've bashed it so far, I have to admit it's actually kind of fun. But why does every level have to be a major clusterfuck of enemies? It's just so frustrating. It was a good concept, taking Mario into a pinball game, and it's easily the most different and exciting pinball game that I've ever played. But this game really disappoints in its playability and difficulty. Unless you are a god at controlling flippers, you probably won't have very much fun with this game. I spent 9.5 hours on this game from start to finish to beat Adventure Mode 100%. And I have to say that this truly is the worst Mario game ever, with the possible exception of Hotel Mario. But even that game's gameplay wasn't terrible. Then again, the gameplay of this game wasn't terrible either. It was just far more annoying than it needed to be. Because of this, Mario Pinball Land for the Game Boy Advance receives a grade of C+. It's a game I'm still indecisive about. It's a well-built combination of fun and frustration, but it's just a little heavy on the side of frustration for me to rate it any higher.
Thanks for watching! Tune in next time on Games I Never Play, where I'll be tackling another game from my diverse collection of forgotten video game titles.